Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about the woke mainstream news media and how they're not only super left-wing and progressive, but also they have a tendency to eat their own alive. You see, this sort of philosophy, the way they think is they have these hierarchies and they're all about their identity politics. And at times it comes to bite them in the butt when things don't go out in their favor, in their way, if things don't happen exactly the way the left-wing envisions them, which is, of course, everything's super multicultural, perfectly diverse, no white people, lots of women and alphabets in your hiring system, people working on your projects, your websites, employers, the faces of your company, everyone talking in this day and age basically has to be non-white, preferably female or alphabet. And particularly, we're talking about one company who's come under fire recently. The Huffington Post has been called out for not having the proper demographics, at least in a left-wing sort of controlled, post-modern utopia sense. They can't stand any sort of disparity between, say, the races. They want more minorities in the positions of power. They want more women in alphabets, as I said before. Things like that are what's more important to them than actually getting the best people for the job. They don't care who you hire, like if they're just really passionate about profession or they're really good or they're just available at the time. It's not about that for them. It's not about the real issues and what real HR hiring places are considering. It's like, no, for them, it's about having the right colors, checking things off on a list. It doesn't really matter how they perform or what they produce and if it's done well. And that's what's come up in today's story. The Huffington Post recently had a unionization. That means they had their people make a union for their employees, which is kind of separate from the company. And the union does, negotiations for the employees, trying to get them benefits and better pay and hours and stuff like that. And they've actually had the Huffington Post union call out the Huffington Post. As you'll see in this tweet I'm about to show you, this is from Jack P. He says, "This is clearly the work of white supremacy. HuffPost must be shut down." This is obviously being a joke, hyperbolic, but as you'll see when we read into this, he's not far off. The Huffington Post union is calling out the Huffington Post here, and here they say, "HuffPost is disproportionately white. Among unionized non-management editorial staff, only 6% are black, US is 13%, and only 1% are Latinx, US is 18%. In management, there's only one black person and one Latinx person. 25 out of 36 managers are white." Now, this has got a lot of information in here, actually. It seems like a quick tweet, and you could see them having a GIF that goes along with it, just listing no black or Latinx, no black or Latinx. They're really focusing on needing more black or Latinx employees. Now, the question is why? Why do they care? Why are they talking about this? I mean, they're implying it's not fair. They're saying, oh, this isn't fair. If it was properly represented, there'd be 13% black and 18% Latinx. We'll get to Latinx more soon. But the point now is they are implying it has to be fairly distributed in relation to the country and the population. Now, this kind of makes sense if it's like a pseudo-intellectual way and you just throw it out there and you don't think about it too much. It's like, yeah, okay, it should represent the country. But the truth of the matter is this doesn't hardly happen anywhere in any job. Like every single profession is going to have some kind of disparity. Like, for example, how come the leftists never complain about teachers? Teachers are overwhelmingly female, as are nurses and healthcare workers and even adult film actors. Like there's a lot of professions that have extra women, but people wouldn't say that's a problem in that instance, as they wouldn't say, oh, in professional sports, there's a lot of black people in the NFL and the basketball, even baseball, but baseball is more evenly split. But if you look at basketball and football, certainly there's a dominating force of a lot of black people. Like the majority of those players are black, despite being only 13% of the population. So how come that's not a problem? How come teaching and sports are not a problem? Well, that's because this isn't really about making things fair. This isn't about balancing things out and being awesome. It's about less white people. Look at the first phrase. This is disproportionately white. This is implied to be a bad thing. This is a negative connotation, even though let's not forget that the majority of our country is white. Over 60% of our country is white. And traditionally, historically, we're even more white, but that doesn't factor in for these people. And they don't even consider the fact that, hey, Huffington Post is a media company. They're a newspaper, basically like writing articles for the internet. So maybe that's just a job that attracts more white people. It might just happen to attract more white people. And there's no problem with that. Like certain jobs have more black people. Like there's certain professions that have more Hispanics. Like they tend to work in the lawns or be, these kinds of lower level workers. That's fine too. There's lots of, Hispanics that are house cleaners, cutting the grass, trimming your bushes. They do other things too, of course, but that's just one example. Just like this is an example of maybe a job that has more white people in it. That's just something they like to do more, and the other people don't like to do it. There's no one at the company saying, hey, let's turn away these kinds of people, these kinds of people. I mean, it's possible, but we're not being presented with that evidence. That's the main point, and the main problem with this argument is there's really no proof of racism here. Pointing out the races and the demographics that a company happens to have does not prove racism. I mean, if it did, then I could also go back to those examples and say that the NFL is racist, and also that nursing is sexist, and so is teaching and education jobs. This would apply in all those directions, but I don't think the leftists would go along with those other examples because this is an anti-white thing. This is about having less white people in jobs, particularly jobs that are cool. They don't argue with and try to say, hey, we should get more minority police officers or firefighters or, hard jobs like ditch diggers or something like that, something dangerous like, joining the military. It's like, no, they don't focus on low-level, hard jobs, dangerous jobs. It's always cushy, overpaid jobs. This is the job of a Huffington Post writer who most of these people probably work from home. They're working on their computers, writing little articles, sitting around, working half days and stuff like that, getting paid a ton of money. So they're going for very high-profile jobs, and they want less white people in them. This has happened in other areas too. We've talked about it in Hollywood a lot. They always complain that there's not enough certain kinds of actors. They want directors and writers too, like just the top jobs. They don't ever talk about the lighting guys. They're never saying, hey, why don't the janitors at the studio have an even distribution? I mean, all the janitors at, say, Warner Brothers are mostly Hispanic, and it's like, that's not fair. We should have more white janitors and black janitors. And then it's like, the next question is, where do you find these people? I mean, they're already allowed to apply for these jobs. People are already allowed to apply wherever they want, and if they're qualified, they might get it. They might not too. But to imply everything's racist and sexist and homophobic, anti-alphabet, whatever it may be, it's just coming from the place of a whiny sort of pro-progressive SJW-based organization. This is a union. Unions are known to be far left. They have this logo that's like the fist. That's like the Black Lives Matter fist. So they're obviously somewhat supporting them. And then they use this anti-white argument that's also using the Latinx term. We've talked about this before. Latinx is another woke, like made up word that isn't really used by actual Latin people. You can tell that this wasn't written by actual Hispanic or whichever, someone that speaks Spanish or anything related to Latin or Latino or Latina. Like, they don't say Latinx. They think that's a joke. I've never seen it actually legitimately used. It's just a made up word that leftists like to use in their little word games. They've done it with other words like cisgender, Latinx. We just did a video last week where they did womanx. It's like WOMXN, like they're trying to X out the men or something weird like that. But it's just more wordplay, and it's coming from a very desperate, very racist company that has more to say. So let's read the follow-up tweets. They say, there are 0 black people among editorial leadership. The editors on the breaking news and trend teams are all white. The editors on the life team are all white. The reporters on the business environment team are all white. The personal team is all white. So there's clearly an anti-white sentiment here. It's like, why are all these white people in this company? Like, oh my God, like, can you believe this thing's white? This thing's white. This thing's white. That's so wrong to them. They can't stand white people. This is an anti-white sentiment. And yeah, it's just, we've debunked it every single angle you could already talk about. I mean, just imagine this argument was levied at the basketball association. Like, if I said, oh, there are 0 white people on the NBA Clippers starting lineup, and all the coaches and all the players on the Utah Jazz are black too, it wouldn't fly if we tried to flip this argument around. That would be called racist if you pointed holes and said, hey, why is there so many women in nursing? That would be called sexist. And that's why I say it's certainly offensive when you try to demean white people. And this just might be one of the professions they prefer or excel at. There's nothing wrong with a group that's all white people. Like, I think actually the problem is if you're a person and you see a group of white people and you think they're automatically racist, like, that actually makes you racist. I don't know if you realize that, but that's actually a bad look for you. 0 black or Latinx editors on copy desk, 0 black or Latinx editors on audience, blah, blah, blah. More places that don't have enough black or brown people for them. They're clearly just race obsessed. They're trying to also play into the current events. Like, they're trying to use this whole wave of BLM and the election coming up and all the race baiting. And they're like, all right, let's make a play. Let's get rid of all the white people at Huffington Post. Forget about the fact that, Ariana Huffington started this. She's a white person. She might have hired people similar to her, similar writers in her area. And, there's nothing wrong with that. If black people want to start a news news website. They can do it. So can Latinx. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there. Just the problem is Huffington Post is one of the most popular ones. I mean, I haven't checked it in a long time, but it's still a very major player out there. I know it's kind of a joke now. It's almost like BuzzFeed now because they're like just not legit reporters. But the point is they're still a big site, and that's why they're getting attacked by these woke minorities trying to take white people out of the equation. They obviously hate us, and it's just really sad to watch. There's a lot of hate in their hearts, and they don't realize how anti-white and racist they sound. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get this video shared. Subscribe if you're new, and hit the bell for notifications too. Until next time, have a great day, and also make sure you check out our Facebook page. We're going to be posting more on Facebook soon. It's under facebook.com/nobullshitvideos, or you could check out the link below this one. Thanks for your time. Have a good day, and also stay safe.